Thank you for Patreon now for donating to the Patreon.
Hey guys, it's Van Diesel back in the Card Fight Vanguard deck profile. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't like, comment, subscribe, and let's go start, shall we? This time we are covering set 9 Magnolia. So here's my thing. I didn't actually plan on making a set 9 Magnolia deck profile because I only really added one card into it. And I kind of just ran with it, and honestly, I didn't really use that card that often. And then yesterday, when I was battling Magnolia versus Grapholgia for my, actually today is when it's going up together, but like yesterday when I was recording that, I ended up changing my deck because I had like, Aichi from Season 1 winning image type of deal where I see all the units working together. And oh my god, the stupidity I pulled off from listening to that instinct was so fucking bullshit. Like, if you haven't seen that match, go ahead. I didn't get to pull all of it up. I'm gonna say this: 100,000. That gives you a hint to kind of what it is. Anyways, going to get the started, shall we? And you can see what bullshit I was talking about, and literally the only reason why I am doing this deck profile. First up, we have Sylvan Horn Beast Lalote. Goildoat boost 5k shield, 6k base. Auto wins road upon you 1 second draw a card. Standard start and a spell by it. Basically, that means if you just 1 second, you get a free draw. And that's nice because that refills your discard for ride deck, and it just makes it so that you're not really minusing too much. And it's just a cute little cat. Like, why not really cute little cat? I mean, you don't have to run this as your starter, but come on, cute little cat. And it also fits the theme of Sylvan Horn Beast. Then we have our Overtrigger and Source Dragon Deity of Blessings Blessfavor. Goildoat boost 50k shield, 5k power. Overtrigger, you may only have one Overtrigger in your deck. Reverse trigger, move a card, draw a card, choose one mutes, against plus 1 for the turn. And ability draw check, activate its distress, which is you do draw a card, choose your mutes, against plus 1 for the turn. All your farm gets plus 10, and if your damage zone is the same number of cards your opponent's damage zone or more, you get to heal 1 card. So that's great all around. It's in everything bagel. I've kind of made this clear at this point. This is one of my favorite Overtriggers because it's just straight up free everything. Like, you get a guaranteed draw in a million regardless of how you check this, but then if you drove check it, you get an extra draw, so you have 2 draws, you get an extra critical to someone, which is possibly your Vanguard, you get a plus front trigger, and then you get a heal trigger on top of that. Like, it's fun. I love using this against people, because when I see it, I'm like, your chances of winning just went down by a fuck lot. I mean, at least with the other ones, depending on when they're sacked, they kind of like make it you're either dead this turn or you pretty much got like the worst thing out of the way. Now, for this one is your life just got a lot fucking harder, and I love this one so much. So, one of Blessfavor, it's so cool. I love using it, and I love seeing it in this deck. Then we have our normal triggers. First up, we have 3 copies of Sylvan Horn Beast Valen. Okay, we all know at this point that I like to run the archetypal cards, so I do run all archetypal triggers, meaning none of the effect triggers are in here. But for the record, the deck doesn't need effect triggers. God, it's been so long since I've had to say that, hasn't it? But also, like I said, I followed the vision, and it worked to a stupid level. So let's trust me on this. It works. Anyways, Valen, the Goildoat boost, 15k shield, 5k power, just a 3 front trigger. Like, outside of the archetypal reason, I do like just to have the front triggers in there just to make it so my front row can hit numbers in case maybe I am out of CB and my back row can't do anything. My back row is just full of grade 2s for some reason. That has happened a lot. So, being able just to increase my front row's power is just that little bit nicer, and I do like having Valen for it. So, solid 3 for me. Then we have our 4 crits of Sylvan Horn Beast Jackalope, Goildoat boost 15k shield, 5k power. Yeah, this was one of the main changes. The fact that I swapped it, because before it was originally 3 or 4 fronts, 3 crits, and I just changed it to the other one, and then I changed a bunch of other ratios around. So it's mostly my set 7 deck with just a few ratio changes and 1 new card, which is why I didn't want to do the deck profile on it until the vision occurred and forced me to do it. Anyways, Jackalope being there for the crit, honestly really nice. Love stacking crits, fun to have, and I swear this critical loves me to gut death because like every time I play this deck, both in real life and on tabletop, this thing is consistently being sacked in my favor, so fair enough. And then we have 4 copies of our draw on Sylvan Horn Beast Planar. Goildoat boost 5k shield, 5k base. Honestly, I love the hell out of this draw. It is always there when I need it to be discard fodder. Literally, it's, like I said, discard fodder what I need it to be. And I kind of owe this draw a win because, I mean, granted, in that, actually, no, yeah, this was a normal draw. I wouldn't have done it. So, long story short, back in set 7, this was on an off-camera game. I forgot who I was fighting against. I know it was one deck that had a grade 4, and it wasn't a mirror match. So, it was either Kyrie, Prison, Nirvana, or Bruce, or Bastard for that matter. I think it probably was Bruce in hindsight, considering I remember playing against Bruce a lot around then, but I don't know for sure. But point is, I was playing against them. I almost lost. I barely survived. Went on to Elder, called Planar because it was literally the only other thing in my hand, and long story short, I buffed the fuck out of the fucking scroll over here and then swung at face, and I won by exactly like the 1k thing where, because I had a 5k base and my opponent was like the 13k base, I just had a fuck ton of numbers onto it. Dude, I swear to you, if he was 1k less, it would have failed miserably. It legitimately would have failed if he was 1k less. And I am so happy that I trusted Planar with my life. 4 of draws. I love this thing. Helps with discard fodder and literally won me a game against Bruce or whatever the grade 4 deck it was, so 4 of. Then we have 4 copies of our normal hero and Sylvan Horn Beast Zlatorog. Grades 0 boost, fitting his shield, 5k power, standard hero, no special about it. I don't really like the effect tools that much. Like, they're all too situational, and they just kind of are 10k shields unless you pull off the situations, and even then, in the decks where you were going to pull off the abilities the most off at, it could screw you over. Like, I remember there was a game where my friend was playing against Flagberg, and he had the restanding effect heals. He didn't get to use any of them on the restanding units because he had to drop them before they restood. So he effectively just dropped more cards to survive, which wasn't worth it. In the following turn, he died. So I really like the normal heals. They don't take up as, they don't require a certain situation to happen for them to have their normal shield values. Granted, they have less shield overall, but they have more shield consistently, and I'd rather have that over the other option. And then as for the newer counter heals against Griforgia, well, competitively, I don't care, because we all know I'm not a competitive player whatsoever in any way, shape, or form, so none of this matters to me. But if by some miracle it does become competitive, I'm pretty sure a bunch of people are going to start running counter heals for that, because being at a lower grade for Griforgia is probably best. So 4 of Zlatorog, just a nice heal to have. You can do whatever you want with it. Then we have our, I guess, non-trigger units. First up, we have 2 copies of Wild Intelligence, literally my favorite order, or one of my favorite orders of all time. Grade 0, normal order, and a thing I have a very funny combo I should probably try out with later. By counter blasting 1, discard the top 3 cards of your deck, deal to 1 card with the same grade as your Vanguard or lower from your drop zone, call it to rear guard, and if your Vanguard is Sylvan Horn Beast Team Magnolia, aka the grade 3, choose up to 2 cards instead of 1. So essentially, mill top 3, choose any 1 card from your drop zone that doesn't have to be among the milled 3, call to rear guard, and then if you're on Magnolia, you get 2 extra rear guards, or not 2 extra, but 1 extra rear guard in comparison. So all around, pretty great. Very simple cost. It only takes up 1 counterblast. Whenever I use this, I tend to sack the over, so, you know, sometimes something bad happens, but hey, it's fair, because I do get rear guards out of this, and you will not believe the combos this led to. Like I said earlier, the Vision had a very distinct moment in mind where what it wanted to do, and this kind of was a part of it, so yeah, we'll go over that later. Anyways, 2 of Wild Intelligence, solid order. I like it a lot. It's great, and I've run it since set 2. Like another certain card in this deck that the Vision also said should be in here. Then we move on to our grade 1s. First up, we have our only grade 1 that is in the main deck that is not a PG, and that is Sylvan Horn Beast Lamora, aka the thing that hit 100,000, or what would have hit 100,000, and we'll explain why in a second. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 5k base, auto front row rear guard circle. When your other rear guard attacks, until end of turn it gets +5, and the counter boss 1 gets another +5. Okay. So, I remember back in set 4, I ran him. I don't remember why I took him out. I just remember I ran him because he was really good for numbers. And then I took him out. I played Deer Days. Megumi almost killed me with this motherfucker because he just came out of nowhere and I didn't see it coming. And then I brought it in here because, again, the Vision told me to do it. I think this is just me describing every excuse as the Vision told me to do this. But anyways, being able to jump numbers is pretty nice because that essentially means counter boss 1, he gets a free +10, and considering most of the time you're attacking with 6 units at once, or like 5 other rear guards at once, or actually, sorry, 4 other rear guards at once, that essentially means he's at the very least getting a free +20, and then if you want to counter boss 1 for each of them, stack another 20 on that. All around Lamora is great. He gets numbers really big fast, and he just is a dangerous motherfucker to say the least, especially when you combine it with 1 very certain grade 2. 2 of Lamora. There may only be 2 of them, and yet somehow every game I play with this deck, I have drawn both of them. Consistently. Without trying to. Don't question it. Just agree with it. 2 of. Then we have 4 copies of Planar Prevent Dragon. Grade 1 boost, 0 shows 6k base, continuous sentinel. We have up to 4 cells in deck. Also, of guard circle. Choose your units. It cannot be hit on battle if your hand is trim or cards to from his guard. Standard PG, nothing too special about it. Basically, what that means is this is only one of the cards that can be placed on guard circle. You don't have to ditch one for it, which is great because that means you can be as aggressive as you want in the early game. And trust me when I say this deck wants to be as aggressive as possible in the early game to the point where you're getting 6 attacks on first grade 3 turn. Yes, that is possible in this deck, and I'll explain why in a second. And being able to, you know, just to defend yourself when your opponent inevitably goes on the counter attack because they realize you dropped all your defenses on it, on the offense, is pretty great. So I like having the PG. It's helpful. You can run either this or Custodial Dragon because they have the exact same skill, but I do prefer Plan and Prevent because it was released when Magnolia was released, so I like to keep like the releases kind of close to each other. So for Plan and Prevent, solid PG, saves me a lot, and this is literally the only deck that I consistently draw this PG in, so fair enough. Then we have our last grade 1, so grade 1 of the ride deck. One of Sylvan Beast Cheris, none in the main deck, one in the ride deck. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base, though I must say he is one of my favorite grade 1s of all time, or at least in Stoicheia, because he's just so cute. I like his little chubby belly. I like his little design on his belly. I just like his face. He's just so cute. Anyways, auto is ruled upon by Sylvan Beast Lattice. You may reveal the top card of your deck if it's a grade 2 or less unit, call it to rear guard, and if it isn't, aka every time I use this skill, even in this deck, put it to soul. Yeah, so long story short, everyone remember back in, like, I know some people would know what I'm talking about when I say this, but like, remember when Overdress first came out and a lot of people were testing, you know, the new trial decks, like when I mean Overdress first came out, I mean like actual first came out, and they were testing the trial decks and how everyone that used Bastion, or like most people that use Bastion, reported that whenever they would use Fort skill, they would see a heal trigger off the top of their deck when they called a rear guard. Yeah, it's kind of like that with this one, where there's been a consistent curse where every time I use his skill, it's either going to be Magnolia or going to be Magnolia Elder, and there's a rare occasion it's not, and when it's not, then I'm pretty much guaranteed to win that game. Either way, solid skill though, either get you a rear guard or get you soul. I do hate the fact that every time that goes off, most of the time I'm sending a unit I want in my hand to soul, but it's fine. And then continues back or rear guard circle. There is a way to call it out of soul. During the battle of attack, this unit gets plus 5k power. So great. 13k swing, all around pretty solid, but considering when he's attacking from back row, he'll probably have another extra 5k on him, so 18k swing, all around pretty good grade 1. I like him a lot. He's derpy, he's cute, he gets numbers, he increases soul count, and he calls rear guards. What's not to like about him? Solid one of in the right deck. And then move on to our grade 2s, aka the vast majority of this deck. First up, we have 2 copies of the card I know everyone is going to scream at me to get rid of, and I was going to get rid of it when I was rebuilding the set 9 deck, and then the vision told me to keep it in here, and I regret nothing from that decision. And that is 2 copies of Sylvan Beast Damainaru. And I'm sorry, my boy, I've religiously followed you the entire time. I should have never tried to take you out, and the second I tried to, you kind of told me not to. So anyways, grade 2, Intercept, 5k shield, 10k base. Before I get onto his skill, I want to say this. He is like Lemur in the sense that even though there are 2 of them, I consistently draw them every game. Both of them. And same with this one, except for this one I only see 1 copy in my hand, but I still only need 1 copy to do it. Anyways, his skill. Auto, when he is placed on rear guard. If your Vanguard is a Sylvan Beast King Magnolia, so it cannot be Elder, Soul Blast 1, choose one of your back row rear guards. It can be itself if you want to. Until end of turn, it can attack from back row, and it gets plus 5k power. It is essentially Magnolia, just with a Soul Blast instead of a Counter Blast, which is fucking amazing. And just like Urger from Nirvana, I don't get the reason why people thought because you can't use its ability when you're at the end goal, you're supposed to be on Elder or your whatever your respective grade 4 is, that it's not good. Because I have still been kicking people's asses with this card since then. And I don't get where the logic is here between how it's not useful and how it is. Because straight up, kicking people's asses with this. And then auto rear when once per turn when this card chosen by card effects or by your Vanguard's effect, it gets plus 5k power for the turn. I think that's people's main reason because like that's the only reason I've heard that one. I mean, I can guess why this one because it's name restricted, but still, like... So if you're on Elder, it's only ever going to be a 15 because Elder gives it to everyone, not just itself. So sadly, that means it'll always be a 15. But if you're on fucking Magnolia Regular, which there are occasions where you're going to have to be on Magnolia Regular, especially on first grade 3 turn, you just get numbers. So all around, Damainaru is great. I run it out of 2 of because I literally draw them both every game consistently, and the vision that I had came true really quickly where I fucked up on accident because I meant to discard it for ride deck like I always do so I can call it back with Wild Intelligence, but instead I didn't, and instead I called it to rear guard, pumped up the thing I called from Cheris the previous turn, then used Wild Intelligence to therefore, or sorry, not, let me phrase that. I called it, and then I killed the Damainaru, and then I used Wild Intelligence and proceed to mill the other Damainaru, and then I called them both back, and then just pumped up both of them with back row attacks. Stupidity at its finest. Anyways, 2 of Damainaru. It is a solid grade 2 that gets benefits from board presence and also multi-attack. 2 of. Then we have 4 copies of the newest card, and that is Sylvan Beast Goildoat, aka, in my opinion, the most useless card in this deck. And it's not because I think its skill is bad, it's because it's literally the most forgettable card for me. Like, I genuinely will never remember its skill because it's just so forgettable. Anyways, auto drop zone. When your Vanguard Magnolia's card name is placed during your ride phase, if your soul does not have a copy of this in it in soul, put this card to soul, choose a Vanguard, it gets plus 5 for the turn. Okay. I've never had that problem where I needed to get +5, but fair enough. It gets you soul, and sometimes I just go on a soul run with this deck. So fair, free 5. And then auto back row rearguard circle. When this unit attacks, it gets +10k for the battle. And at the end of the battle, if it was in the center column, retire it to draw a card. Okay, that's the reason why I never use this skill, because literally my center column is normally taken up by a trigger that I called from Cheris over here. But it's okay-ish, you know? Like, it swings for 20 guaranteed if it's in back row, and if it was in back center, you get a free kill and draw, and then next turn you get to center soul and get +5. It works with any Magnolia, and you can just keep riding and soul blasting it out. Again, it's not a bad grade 2. I think its skill is genuinely good. It's just the fact that it's so incredibly easily forgettable that, technically speaking, every time I played this deck, I have played with the equivalent to a vanilla, because it will end up in drop and I'll just forget about its existence, and then I proceed to win anyways. So I'm playing with a 46 card deck technically, and I'm still winning. Again, I say, this thing, MVP, solid card, is just doing his job well. This one, not so much. 4 of. Then we have 3 copies. Oh, I put these in the wrong order. Well, too bad. Anyways, 3 copies of Sylvan Hornbeast Panthuro. Grade 2, intercept 5k shield, 9k base. Auto is replaced on rear guard by soul blasting 1. Choose a Sylvan Hornbeast Panthuro from your drop zone. Call it to rear guard as a, call it to an open rear guard circle. So great, you know, you can just card 1 for ride deck, ride, and then call the other, and then soul blast 1, call it out. God, I remember this thing was doing stupid shit back in set 4. And then auto rear, when this unit attacks, if you have a Vanguard Magnolia in its card name, so whether it's Elder or regular, this unit gets +5k for the battle, which is great. So 14k swing easily, and then plus the Magnolia, whether whose skill it is, it's a 19k. All around, solid grade 2. I like it a lot. Allows for free calls, allows for multi-attack, kind of, if they gave us a... That's going to be the next Magnolia support card. Call stuff during the battle phase. I can already tell. But... you know, call stuff just by being other called, so, you know, getting 2 rear guards at once, and the fact that it can loop its skill off too, so if you have 2 in drop zone, you can call 1 from this one skill by placing this one from hand, and then use its skill, call the other one and drop, and then use that one skill to call the other one and drop, because they don't have to be placed from hand for the skill to go off. Either way, solid grade 2, get your rear guard, get your numbers. What's not to like about it? 3 of. Then there's 4 copies of card I forgot to go get the English version of, Sylvan Hornbeast Alpin, or as I like to call it, Fluffy Llama of Death that led to the stupidest bullshit I've ever seen. So grade 2 intercept, 5k shield, 10k base, auto rear when your Vanguard, when this unit attacks a Vanguard, if your Vanguard has Magnolia's card name, again, whether it's regular or Elder, this unit gets +5k for that battle for every 2 of your grade 2 or grade units, including itself. So if your full board is grade 2s or graders, then he gets +15, and that's likely to happen a lot. And if you bomb this, and if you got 10k by that effect, at the end of the battle, bind this unit, countercharge 1, and soul charge 1. So essentially, I'm pretty sure you're allowed to get more than 10 from that. I'm pretty sure it's just 10 or greater. But either way, being able to get 10 or greater from that effect, great. Countercharging 1 and soul charge 1. And not to mention the fact that it's not a once per turn. Meaning if you have 3 of these fuckers, you get a free soul charge 3 and countercharge 3. And you may be thinking, that sounds unnecessary for a turn. Yeah. True. The thing about this, the next turn. Triple Gun and Sola onto a lemur. Yeah, let it settle in. Let it settle in. Yeah, okay, I don't need to discuss this further. You can see where this goes. Literally the ultimate resource gainer. I love this grade 2. I used to not like him very much, and now I love him a lot. Especially with what the Vision did with this deck. Good, solid card. 4 of. Speaking of Gun and Sola, this... Bitch, I always forget that your name has a I in the English. I always keep the Y just because I completely forget to change it out. But anyways, Sylvan Hornbeast, Gun and Sola, grade 2 units of 5k shield, 10k base, auto back or rear guard circle. When this unit attacks into anything, by counterblasting 1, choose one of your other rear guards and it gets this unit's power until end of turn. Increase the power at the time. Say, for example, you have Magnolia on it, so, I mean, we'll attack from back row, it gets a 5k regardless, considering, like, that's the only way things give back row attack. So 15k at the very least. But let's say you shove a trigger on it, that's 25. What you can do is you can swing with 25 and then give its skill to, or give its power to another back row Gun and Sola. So let's just say that one just has 15. So now it has 40. Then you use that one and you give it to another Gun and Sola, who now has, let's just say, was also at 15. So it's at 55. And then that one swings and you shove it all into a lemur who also had +5. So let's see, that lemur had already base +10, 3 back row attacks. So, you know, 25 plus a Gun and Sola just dropped off. What did I say before? Was it 50? Was it 60? I don't fucking know what I... Point is this. It's somewhere near 100. So, 4 of Gun and Sola. Solid grade 2. Fuck ton of numbers. Don't mess with it. If you see this thing come down, murder it with fire. Because I promise you, it will be the death of you if you let it live long enough. 4 of. Then we have our last grade 2 is the grade 2 of the ride deck, 1 of in the ride deck, none in the main deck of Sylvan Horned Beast Lattice. Grade 2 is a 5k shield, 10k base, auto when it's rode upon by Sylvan Horned Beast King Magnolia. By Soul Blasting, reveal the top card of your deck. If it's a unit card, called Rearguard, and if it isn't, put it to your hand. So, great. I love this one more than I love Cherish, because even though I do love how Cherish gets me a soul charge, this one either actually gets me a Rearguard regardless of what it is, or gets me a Wild Intelligence to hand. So either way, I'm really plussing off this. I don't really mind. I love its skill a lot. Solid grade 2 skill. And then auto backward Rearguard. Again, there's a way to call from Soul. When this unit attacks a Vanguard, Soul Blast 1 this unit plus 10k for the battle. I love how this used to be my beat stick back like in set 1 and somewhat in set 2, and then I never used it as a beat stick again. Then in like one of my more recent games, like before I had the vision, I had kind of needed a beat stick because none of my gun and solos came out of deck, and I called this to Rearguard, and I had stacked so many triggers and just used its skill, and it reached like God knows what, 60, 70 something, and stupidity at its finest. That's all I'm gonna say. 1 of Lattice in the right deck. Not in the main deck. You don't need it in the main deck. It takes up too much soul. But he is good for swinging with big-ass numbers. 1 of. Then we move on to our grade 3s. We have our only grade 3 in the deck. It is 2 of in the main deck, 1 of in the right deck of Sylvan Horned Beast King Magnolia. Because, you want your Persona Rise every now and again to help increase your chances of being able to do 6 attacks. Anyways, grade 3 turn on Persona, 13k base. Auto Vanguard. At the end of the battle, this unit attacked into anything. By counter blasting 1, choose one of your rear guards until end of turn. That unit can attack from the back row, get plus 5k. And if you Persona Road, you choose 3 rear guards instead of 1. So, solid card all around. Simple single counter blast. You get 1 unit that has back row attack for 15. If you gave it to Damainaru down here, then it's 20, or if you gave it to Cherish, it's 18, or possibly this one, if you want to use its skill, it would be 25. And then you proceed to pick 3 of them instead. If you Persona Run, the best part is you don't have to pick something in the back row. You can pick any unit on your board or any rear guard on your board, and it gets 5k, but it can also attack from the back row if it was in the back row. So solid card nonetheless. I like its skill a lot. Very simplistic, very easy to use. Solid card, 2 of in the main deck, 1 of in the right deck, because honestly, Persona Ride spamming is great, and in my opinion, sometimes better than Elder, because in terms of numbers, it is better than Elder, because you're getting the same amount of attacks anyways, except the difference is you do get more numbers to, I guess, the front row by 5k, so there's that. 2 of Magnolia in the main deck, 1 of in the right deck. And speaking of Elder, it is our last card in the deck, a grade 4 with triple drive, 13k base, Sylvan Horn, Beast Emperor, Magnolia Elder, still one of my favorites in terms of arts. Auto, when it's placed on Vanguard, choose a card from your soul, and you may call it to rear guard. Okay, first up, solid skill, because that means you can call this fucker, this fucker, this fucker, possibly this fucker, or, where is it? This one, or anything that ended up into the soul via Alpin's effect, which is great, because I remember there was a game where I ended up with a gun and solo in there, and that just led to some stupid shenanigans. But in the choice set where you don't want to call, you do not have to, but the best part is because it's just on place. That means you can just keep riding and just keep calling a copy just to flex on your opponent. And anyways, his other skills, continues Vanguard. If you have 1 or more cards in your soul or on your rear guard with Magnolia in their card names, so you can choose to either keep that Magnolian soul or call it to rear guard, so you have access to this ability. Then again, if you're putting it on rear guard, you're risking it being killed, but same with prison, technically speaking, so fair enough. All of your opponent's all of your rear guards can attack and intercept from the back row and get plus 5k power. So essentially what that means is this doesn't affect, so the intercept part, it doesn't give intercept to units, it just allows them to intercept from back row if they already have intercept. So if you have a full board of grade 2s, good for you, you can intercept from back row, which is an ability I never use because I refuse to get rid of my board. That means you have consistently 6 attacks on your board, you have interceptors, and they just get a free plus 5 during both players' turns, which all around is great. So in my opinion, Magnolia Elder is better for defense. But if we're going for flat-out attack, if we're comparing the Magnolia Elder ride to a Persona ride of Magnolia, Magnolia is better because it can get out more numbers with A, just Persona ride, and B, this. Oh, sorry, wrong card, this. So there's that. Like I said, it comes down to the moment. Who has more power outright? Or in terms of like if we're going Persona ride versus grade 4 turn, this one, if we're going for who has more defensive abilities, obviously it's this one. So, or like, I guess, yeah, well, no, it is just obviously that one. So either way, all around, Elder's a solid grade 4, being able to call rear guard possibly, whether you want, or you don't have to if you don't want to, and then also being able to consistently give your rear guards buffs to make them harder to hit and give them intercept from back row, and just make it a guaranteed 6 attacks every turn without having to Persona ride, and it does it all for free. All around, solid grade 4, I love its skill a lot, and has a cool ass art, and I draw it consistently enough, and I also like to have the deck split between Persona rides and regular rides, so solid 3 up for me. And that's it for the deck. I hope you guys enjoyed. All around, it is very fun playing. because I didn't really like the original set 9 Magnolia deck that I had built. And again, following the vision worked like a charm. Moral of the story, if you get a Sequoia-like vision where you just see a bunch of animals standing next to each other, and they just stand tall and firm on a very, like, Cray-esque background, follow the vision to the fucking letter, because I promise you it's gonna work, because, great God, what I did was pure stupidity. So, I'm gonna end it here. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, Discord, follow Twitch, and I'll see you all in the next one. Don't forget to stand up your vanguards.